Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to be continuing on with the background story of my work, education, etc. And I think where I left off was around that 2016 point. Uh, Essentially, just to go back, so in 2014, I start going to college. At the same time, shortly after going to school, I get a letter from the Surgeon General of the Air National Guard telling me pretty much I'll never be able to re-enlist again in my life. So I decided might as well go to the VA, file claims for all the problems I've been having that I kept putting off, didn't want to talk to anybody about because I was afraid it was going to affect my enlistment possibility. At the same time that I go and I file my compensation claims, I'm also going to the VA treatment side and I'm getting seen by doctors for my problems. So for my legs, I'm seeing an orthopedic surgeon. I go to podiatry. I actually get custom shoe, prosthetic inserts for my shoes. They issue me a pair of prosthetic custom-made boots that are supposed to help with my legs. I'm seeing psychiatrists. I've got a counselor. I'm starting on a bunch of different psychiatric meds to help out with depression, anxiety, anger management, trying to figure out ways to help me sleep better due to the nightmares and everything from PTSD problems. So I'm already getting treated by this. Doctors have already said, yeah, you have PTSD, we need to take care of it. So I'm being treated for these things. But then 2016, when the decision rating comes back from my claim, they deny everything except for that rating increase in my legs. So I file my appeal. 2017, I start getting ready to go to the university. So spring term 2017, I think it was 6 credits that I was short to graduate, but I worked out with the school where I'm able to graduate with everybody else, with the rest of my class, don the outfit, walk across the stage, get the diploma, all that kind of stuff with the family. And then I go in during summer 2017 term. I'm only going half-time to get my 6 credits, which was only 2 classes. And for that summer, because I'm only doing half-time, I'm only getting half the pay. So instead of that $2,100 a month, I'm now only getting about $1,000 a month, but I've still got, around $800 coming in from my disability pay that had been increased. So I'm still able to take care of my bills. I'm not going to be able to go out, excuse me, and spend a whole bunch of extra money like I've been doing. But it was going to be a fairly busy summer. I had purchased a bunch of ammo in bulk, so I spent a couple $1,000s on cases of 5.56 ammo, 9mm, 12 gauge. So I've got all this ammo. And at the same time, during the summer, you have to go to like a new student orientation for the university. So I'm able to spend time, I'm only going to classes half-time. The other time I'm either going out to the range a lot to try and relax and just have something enjoyable to do. I've already got the ammo, so the only money I'm spending is pretty much the gas to drive out there and the range fee, which was like $5 a day. I'm able to go and start doing a bunch of my VA appointments. One thing is the VA had done a couple CT scans. I was having some odd pain in my abdomen, acid reflux that I'd never had before. They found out that I have a slightly enlarged liver, that I have gallstones, and something about a minor aortic blockage, but that wasn't too much of a concern, I guess. So they started me on some medication for acid reflux, and they were going to do surgery to remove my gallbladder. But at the time, I was kind of thinking, we'll put that off and, think about other options. And then fall term 2017 hits, I started attending the university. Now again, this school, the whole school itself, it started off after World War II. The whole purpose of that school was for returning veterans to be able to go to college and to get a degree so they could return to the civilian workforce. So this school started off for veterans. So my understanding was this was going to be a very veteran-friendly school. The community college was very veteran-friendly, really great staff and everything like that. Completely the opposite at this university. So many problems right off the bat. One, the student advisors, they're not veterans. None of them have ever served. And you just get assigned to whoever. The problem is every single one of the advisors are also instructors. So they've got a big old pile of students that's assigned to them. And you have to go in and you have to meet with your advisors to do your schedule, plan your classes, get enrolled, do all that stuff. Because they're instructors, they've only got usually like 1 hour for 2 days a week that they have open office hours that you're able to come in and meet. And you're trying to schedule yourself to get into their office during their office hours and try and also make it so that you're not in a class at the same time. It was just a huge hassle. The only person they even had on the campus that was, somewhat remotely related to the VA or for veteran assistance was there was a girl that was in financial aid, and she was the person responsible for processing the paperwork for veterans so that the VA would pay for your schooling. She had minimal contact, minimal communication with the people from the VA, so your paperwork was often delayed or she would fill it out wrong. Paperwork might go missing. And it was just this huge hassle. The hugest problem with this school was the bookstore that's in the school a few years prior had been sold off. It had recently been owned and operated by the school. Now it got sold to a private company. So the school no longer had control over the bookstore. Now again, all of my books, my supplies, everything have to go through the bookstore of the school. The VA's paying for everything, top, brand new books, all of it. They have basically, as long as it's on that supplies list, price doesn't matter. From the very first term that I start, my textbooks aren't coming in until after midterms. What that means is I'm not, when you go to your classes, a lot of these classes, you've got to listen to lectures or presentations, and then they'll say go home and read chapters 3 through 5 or whatever. And then you have to go home and you got to read your book and essentially learn out of the book yourself. And then when you come back in, they just kind of lightly go over those topics. So without a textbook, I'm not able to learn the material properly. Another thing is your homework. They're going to say, at the end of chapter, whatever, do your problems out of your book. I don't have a book, so I'm not able to do my homework. I'm not able to get copies of the chapters that you're supposed to be reading. I'm not able to get copies of the questions, the quizzes and tests at the end of those chapters, because they're very strict on copyright and all this. Essentially, they're trying to get you to make sure you're buying books. I wasn't able to go and study with other students because this campus was much further away from where I live. It's very inconvenient to try and deal with studying with those people, especially at this point I'm taking higher level business courses, so you need a computer. I had I went out and I purchased a laptop, but the laptop was very basic. You can do limited, Microsoft Office applications on it. You could use it for the internet, but it was just not the best manner for me. I'm accustomed to be able to sitting in my desk, doing the work without interruptions. I've got a much better computer for it and a printer and all that. So it starts causing a lot of problems as far as not having my textbooks. And then of course midterms roll along. That's a big portion of your grade. And because I'm falling behind on all the material, midterms roll along. I'm not able to do the midterms yet because I haven't had my books. At first, I'm able to work with some of the instructors to allow me to delay my midterms for a couple weeks. But still, just trying to get caught up on all of this stuff. By the time my books come in, I'm trying to get all caught up to speed on all the materials, trying to do whatever late homework they'll still allow me to turn in. And some of the classes I'm able to get through it. Some of the classes I'm starting to get bad grades. It starts affecting my GPA. And I'm talking to the bookstore. The bookstore says it's a problem with our publishers getting the materials. It's like, you guys have all these used books that you're able to get in, but the brand new books, you're not able to get in. That doesn't make sense. I'm like, you guys have these used books right there on the shelf. Can't I just have one of those? It's already been paid for. And they're like, no, you've already purchased a brand new book. You have to get that book when it comes in. If you want that used book on the shelf over there, you're going to have to pay for it out of your own pocket. And some of these books, $300, $400, or even $800 for some of these textbooks. I'm not going to go buying textbooks, that have already been paid for. Some of the other people, the instructors or the school, they're like, just go on to like Amazon or eBay or something like that and buy the books. I'm like, look, these books, with all the classes I'm having, it's going to cost a couple $1,000s. The VA has already paid for all of these books. There's no need for me to go out and buy all these books using my own money when they've already been paid for. Do you understand that? And they couldn't get that through their head. They're like, well, if you don't, you're just going to have to. They weren't willing to try and fix the problem, find a solution. And for the whole year, the first year that I went, 3 terms, boom, 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 same thing. I'm not getting most of my textbooks until after midterms or around the midterms. What happens is my grades start dropping. When I left the community college, I was still with a 3.6 GPA. I had failed a couple classes because, it's just trying to get up to speed in the math. Another problem with that campus is, unlike the community college, which was a little bit smaller, you could just bounce easily from one building to another. This university, your parking area is way out in a gravel parking lot. Half a kilometer from any of the buildings. You've got to walk from from the parking lot to your building. When that class is over, you've got to go walk another 500-600 meters, to another building. So by the end of the day, I've walked 3 to 8 kilometers, bouncing around between everything before I get back in my car. A lot of old concrete steps that haven't been worked well. The campus is definitely not disabled friendly, handicap friendly. They don't have like ramps and stuff. If you want to avoid the steps, you've basically got to go, all the way around. It's like a 2-kilometer route to go all the way around to come up another access road. So it was a lot of painful walking and just not very comfortable. So really the whole first year there, from fall 2017 to spring 2018, I'm having these issues with the textbooks. I'm starting to fail some classes, and I start trying to talk to my advisor about it. The advisor's just too busy to care. So pretty much the whole first year that I'm there, the 3 terms, so fall, winter, spring 2017 and 2018, my grades are starting to drop, and it's just, things aren't going well with that school. I'm starting to see some problems. At the same time, it was a very cold winter. Winter spread out, and the cold hurts a lot. So I'm having to deal with a lot of the pain in my legs. I'm trying to go to different VA appointments, but because of the weather, in order to go to the VA hospital, which is around 90 miles away, I've got to go through 3 different mountain passes. A lot of times they're closed down or limited traffic due to the heavy snowfall. But it was just starting to not turn out all that great. And pretty much when summer 2018 term hits, and at this point I'd been going to school since summer 2014. So 14, 15, 16, 17, each year I'm attending every single term. Not taking any time off. The only time I get off is those very short breaks in between when one term ends and the next one starts. Usually it's about 2 weeks. And if there's any like school breaks, like for Christmas break, spring break, any holidays, things like that. But other than that, I've been going to school nonstop. So I'm starting to get a little bit burnt out. The VA doctors are pretty much telling me, look, you need to take this term off. Don't go to summer term. You need to take this time off. Get your medical issues squared away. really start going in for some counseling. Go see your podiatrist and your orthopedic surgeon, see if they can start figuring out alternative, like some other options for your legs. And this also be a chance for us to try and switch up your med cocktail, see if we can come up with a much better, more effective combination of meds. So I do that. First time, I take a term off. Problem with that is when you take the term off, you're not getting your money from financial aid, you're not getting your stipend, you're not getting any money at all from school. And at this point, I had a few $1,000s in savings, but my $800 a month for my disability isn't going to cover my bills. So even if I'm not going out and spending a bunch of money, just my basic bills, utilities and stuff like that, that's about $1,800 a month. So for those couple months that I'm not in school, I'm having to pull around $1,000 a month out of my savings. Not good. But at least luckily at that point I still had some savings to go on. But they're not really able to fix all the problems. But by the time summer term is over with, I'm like, look, I'm hurting for money. I'm not going to keep on blowing through all my savings. I don't have a choice. I've got to go back to class. I've got to try and work this through. I've got to deal with this. So I go back for fall 2018 term. And again, same fucking problems. I don't get my textbooks until a month and a half after classes are started. By this point, my GPA is down below a 3. And things aren't looking too good. Essentially, what I'm getting from the school is they know that if I fail a class, the VA will pay for me to retake that class. So if I fail a class, they get the money from my attendance of the class that I failed, and they're going to get money again when I retake the class. So to them, if I fail a class, it's okay. It's good because they're going to get more money out of it. It's not going to affect their overall rating as long as I graduate, because that's really what people look at. When you're looking at colleges, you're looking at what's the percentage of people graduating, not what's the GPA of the people graduating. So if my GPA starts tanking, it doesn't fucking matter to them because all they care about is getting their money. So essentially, I'm failing classes, my GPA is going down, but the VA is like, all right, well, we'll pay for you to take the class again. That causes issues though because of scheduling. Some of the classes are only offered once a year, so you've got to totally redo your whole schedule to try and figure out how you're going to shuffle it around to retake that class next year. And it's just a huge mess. The business classes that I'm taking, a lot of them were that way, where it's only offered once a year because it's in a series. Fall, winter, spring is, part 1, part 2, part 3. So if you fail part 2, you can't take part 3 until you've passed part 2. So you're going to have to wait till the whole next year, retake part 2 so that you can do part 3. So what that ends up doing is your schedule for this year has to get completely shuffled around and redone and mapped out for you to go finish these things the next year. Pain in the ass. I'm trying as hard as I can to complete classes, at least get a D or whatever I'm needing, C, you're able to go to the next class. And that was kind of their motto. The student motto was, D is a degree. So, that was kind of the thing is, even if you fail a class, well, not fail it, but you get a D, technically you pass the class. If you have a next level class, you have to get at least a C to be able to go to the next one. Sometimes you might be able to get a waiver, but essentially, yeah, it was a low quality hack school, not what it used to be. But it's causing problems. My medical issues that I was trying to deal with over the summer, I wasn't able to fix all of it. Just the stress and everything from dealing with the school and other things going on in my personal life at the time, it just started taking its toll. Nightmares were coming back really hard. I'm only getting a couple hours of sleep a night. There were days where I wouldn't get any sleep. I'm having serious problems with short-term memory, concentration. Um, I'd go to class, learn stuff in a class, and within a couple weeks, I couldn't remember half the stuff that I learned. I mean, it was just a problem. So I go through the fall term, and after fall term of not getting my books on time and everything, I'm like, this is complete bullshit. I'm just getting tired of this. So for winter term was starting in, I think it was winter term, it's starting in like December. Um, Pretty much I was just tired with it. I was done. I needed a break. I needed to figure out what to do. I mean, uh, thoughts of suicide and all that were getting really heavy at the time. I didn't want to keep doing it anymore. Not just the school part. I mean, I'm talking like the pain in my legs, the depression, the nightmares, just totally the realization that this is what I'm going to be stuck doing for the rest of my life, because I'm never going to be able to get back in the military, and because of my injuries and stuff, this might limit my options for other work, law enforcement, security, contracting, a lot of those kind of jobs that I was thinking about doing as an alternative because of my physical condition, probably going to be unable to do those types of jobs. So around late November of 2018, I make the decision that, I've got to do something. My doctors and the VA are just saying, look, you weren't able to get everything situated during the summer. You tried going back to school. You're seeing that you're just not ready for it. So we highly recommend you do a medical withdrawal from school. It won't affect your grades, and you can go back to school once you're ready. I didn't want to leave school because that was income. But if I keep going to school and failing classes, it's going to get to the point where my GPA is so bad, I'm not going to be able to continue. I'm not going to be able to graduate. And I didn't want to ruin my GPA. I didn't know what else to do, but I had to file for that medical withdrawal. So beginning of December 2018, I'm officially out of school. That right there is sort of the beginning of a chain of events that would ruin my financial future in a sense. Essentially, what I'm going to be covering soon is just a chain of events that would destroy my income, my financial level, status, everything. And it was going to be a very hard ride for a while. Before I get into that though, something I wasn't mentioning before that is important. So the apartment that I was living in, I moved into it in 2014, and it was a nice 2-bedroom apartment. It was in a 4-plex, so it's not like a whole bunch of them. It's 2 up, 2 down. And I got this place because it was in a fairly quiet neighborhood. It was a neighborhood that I used to know as being a nice, more higher scale neighborhood. It was fairly close to the community college that I was going to start attending. It wasn't that far. It was close to one of the major roadways, like a highway, leading up to the VA clinic if I needed to go to local VA appointments. It was just a nice, convenient location because of how close it was to community college. Problem is that the university is on the complete other side of town, about 8 miles out, through a bunch of traffic and everything like that. So when I'm going to community college, it's not that bad, especially during the winter time. I've got a very good vehicle for winter. But where I live, I'm up on a hill with some steep roads that go down. I'm able to manage that. The problem is trying to get to the university 9 miles away with roads that haven't been plowed and all that during the winter, it's a problem. During the rest of the year when there is no snow, you've still got tons and tons of traffic to deal with, so it can take, half an hour to get there. And I know that's not too much when you think about somewhere like LA or Chicago, New York, where, traveling 4 miles could take you 4 hours kind of thing. But still, it was a little bit of an inconvenience. But when I moved into my apartment, my next door neighbor was a guy a few years younger than myself. He was a single dad. He had a young daughter. At the time, I think she was around like 8 years old. And he had a girlfriend that was living with him. So typically, I don't like to name names because of complications might arise or whatever. But in this case, I'm going to probably end up slipping with the name, so I'll just say it. So the guy's name was Jamie. Guy had never served in the military or anything like that, but he was physically fit. Basically, he knew that I was prior law enforcement, prior military, and we started getting along. He was interested in buying different military-style firearms, wanted to know how to use them, how to maintain them, what type of ammo he should buy, all that kind of stuff. So I started teaching him firearms, marksmanship, all that kind of stuff, and just enjoying our time, hanging out, going to the range. My best friend that I grew up with, he'd moved out of town, so I really didn't have anybody to hang out with. So I'm going to the range with him. We'd go out sometimes, go fishing, shit like that. Also, he was kind of interested in getting a job in law enforcement. Initially, he was thinking maybe of going into the city police where I had been with, but he kind of changed his mind and he started wanting to go with the county sheriff's office. I started putting him into contact with people that I knew that worked there, and he started going through the application process, but he kind of just fell out with it. Just for whatever reasons, didn't really see it being for him. Me personally, I think it had more to do with too much responsibility, too much time commitment, and having his daughter. He just didn't feel it would be the best time for that. But we were hanging out, and in around like 2017, early 2017, he moved out of town. So from 2017 on, I didn't have anybody to hang out with, go shooting with, bullshit, things like that. Well, pretty much what happens is in 2018, just a couple weeks after I quit school, I get a phone call from him. He calls me up and says, hey, what's going on? He's living in Idaho with his grandmother. He broke up with his girlfriend, so he's just living there with his daughter. The problem is his grandma is dying. He doesn't want to stay there any longer because he doesn't want his daughter to go through having to see the grandma die. He's also just wanting to move back to town, get his daughter back in school there, things like that. The problem is he doesn't have a place to live. He's already got a job lined up. So he asked me if I can let him stay in my place for a couple weeks until they get a housing situation figured out. Now, I don't like being around other people for too much time. I get that anxiety, whatever you call it. I have my personal space. I like things to be kind of quiet and order. I've got a lot of expensive stuff around that I don't want people to be messing with things if they're not going to take care of it. Things like that. There were concerns. But I knew this guy well. He'd helped me out with things in the past. I've helped him with things in the past before. We got along really well. And I didn't want to screw somebody over that needed my help. I had a second bedroom. Basically, that bedroom was being used as a studio for doing video and photo. So, basically a video studio. And then the closet was storage for some of my extra stuff. If I were to, set up a bed and everything, they'd have plenty of room in there. I really didn't like the idea. I didn't want somebody coming and staying with me for a while like that. But I left school. I'm hurting financially. I don't know how I'm going to manage things. You know, I've got all these utilities and bills that are coming due. The problem with my place was it's electric heat. The building was not designed well. It's old. There's almost no insulation in the building anymore. So your heat bill can run, you know, easily $800 a month during the cold winters. I mean, it's bad. And that's keeping the thermostat at around like 74. So it's not like I'm keeping it 85 or anything. So I had a lot of bills that were coming up. My car payment with insurance was around $400 a month. You know, rent $550, or back then it was like $500 a month. But I've just got all these bills, utilities, food. I can't afford all this stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. And essentially he says, look, I've got work lined up. I'm going to start work as soon as I get there. I can pay half the rent, half of all the utilities, and I'll buy all the food. So I'm thinking, okay, if he's going to pay all that, all I have to pay out of my own pocket is going to be for my car payment, insurance, and then half of rent, utilities, etc. I can try and work this out. I can figure it out. I've still got a little bit of money left in my savings. If he's going to be here just for a few weeks, and I told him you got to be less than 30 days. If you're more than 30 days, I can have problems, because at the time I had just started going on to the HUD program through the VA. So I was getting rental assistance. It had just started, so they were going to be doing inspections. Because I'm like on the suicide prevention program through the VA, I've got a VA counselor that every week he comes to my house for like a health and welfare check, sit down for an hour, have a counseling session right there in my living room. I'm like, look, you know, if you're more than 30 days, they're not going to be okay with that, and they're going to kick me off this housing program. You know, my rent $500, but because of the assistance, I've only got to pay like $200. So he's like, yeah, no problem. But I'm thinking, okay, so if he moves in, that's a few weeks that he's going to be helping cover all these bills. This is going to give me some time to figure out what I can do to fix my own situation. The doctors are saying I'm not able to work right now. I'm not able to go to school right now because of physical and mental health problems. So I really don't know what I'm going to do financially, but I've got at least a couple weeks to figure it out if he comes in and helps with these bills. Plus, he's a friend in need. I don't want to screw him over on that. I need to help him out. So I agreed to it. Within a few days, just before Christmas, actually it's like a week before Christmas, they come in, get settled in, and from there everything just goes downhill. It was a nightmare. So I'll go ahead and start the next video about the guest from hell.